Greetings everyone, welcome back to Lamech's Effects. After my last episode, I realized that some people would like to know how to find these hidden black people in video games and stories. So, I will show you how to find black people in Dark Souls, besides the one you created, of course. Now normally, I'd start with why an episode like this is important, but I am sure that if you didn't feel it was important, then you would not have clicked on this video. So I will just hurry up and give you what you came for, and I'll explain why it is useful later. Now, let us begin. I will not keep you in suspense. In Dark Souls, black people are represented by the humans, also called the undead. But this episode is supposed to tell you how to find these black people. So I must tell you how I know that the undead are supposed to be black because they are not painted as black in the game. Well, you know that black history has gone through a bit of whitewashing. Any credit for inventions made by black people are given to Caucasians. Any land belonging to black people are given to Caucasians. And even Jesus Christ, who was described as a black man in Revelation chapter 1 verse 14 and 15, was painted as a Caucasian. And since no race cares about black people or was important for their survival, no one is going to try to give you back this history. With that said, if you want to find your blackness in these things, you need to look beyond skin color. Because, again, everything is whitewashed, like the characters in this game. They are only black if you make them black upon character creation. So, instead of looking at skin color, you must look at the societal attributes that resemble black issues. Black people did this well with Goku because he was called a monkey and his race was murdered by a racist. Black people assumed Goku represented black people with nothing else to explain this connection. We're going to do the same thing, yes, but better. We're going to find one attribute that definitely says that the undead are black, and we will use that to find black people in whatever we want. But what attribute should we find? Some who know about Dark Souls know that the undead are corralled to the land of the north.
And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
You would immediately assume that the land of the north is North America. And you'd be right. So you ask, is this what we're looking for? And the answer is no, that's not exactly what we're looking for. And you ask, what? And you're confused. And you try another one. And you see that all races attack you upon seeing you. So you ask if the inherent racism you face as an undead is the answer. And that is something. Maybe. Nah. Bewildered, you think. You do know that the undead go through a process called hollowing, and because of that, they try to kill you, their brother, their countryman. So you ask, what about the fact that they kill each other? That's black on black crime, right? And you would be right, yes. But we don't want that either. And you think, you also know that because of hollowing, the undead lose their memories, and they have no idea who they are or where they came from.
In all honesty, there's something I should tell you. I'm a hollow. Yes. I try to play it off, but I haven't a clue about my past, who I was, or what I lived for. Not even my own blessed name.
Given that, you say, isn't that the whole reason we're doing this episode in the first place? Because black people don't have any memories of their past? Because they don't know who they are, so they can't find their image or where they come from? It has to be this. And that is a great observation. But no. So at this point, you realize that you described the entire black experience regarding the undead, and you ask, what else could it possibly be? And the answer is this: the cursed dark sign. Because what causes hollowing? The dark sign. What activates to remove the souls and humanity from the undead that will cause them to go crazy and attack you? The cursed dark sign. How did Grin brand the humans to keep them powerless? The cursed dark sign. The dark sign is the roots of all the other bad things that happen to the undead. However, there is one attribute this dark sign has that the other things you mentioned don't have. This thing is a brand set on all the descendants of the undead race. Because of that, this sign is a target to let others know that you are undead and they must be racist against you. Because the dark souls, the humans, look humanoid, and everyone looks humanoid, right? So without this dark sign, they would not know to be racist against you. To put it simply, the dark sign is a curse of oppression that is targeted at a specific race of people. And just as the dark sign identifies the undead, we can use it to identify black people. And that's a good thing, even though it's a curse, because that means we can use the same thought process to find out where black people come from. Would you like to know? I mentioned something earlier about the dark sign branding a specific race to identify them among a group of people who look the same. Why is that important? Well, if a black person from America or Europe tries to go to Africa, initially you would think Africans are your family because you look the same. But if you go to certain places, they will inform you correctly that you have nothing to do with their race at all. Although it is true that you both look the same, genetically, they are as different from you as Caucasians are. You are confused when you learn this, but you did learn something. Not all people who look black are of the same race. Now, here's a passage from a book called the Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary, and here is a definition of ham. You know about ham because Caucasians tried to tell you that black people are descended from the cursed seed of Ham. Let's get that definition and see if the Caucasians told you the truth or they lied to you. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So, the book says that Ham is the ancestor of the dark races, like the Africans, but he is not the ancestor of the Negroes, not the ancestor of the African American. So you learn this and you're confused, and while you meditate on this confusing thing, you find another tribe of Africans, and they accept you. Happy, you ask them who you are and where you come from, kind of like Patches did when in Dark Souls 3. But they don't know either. They don't know their history. Do you understand why? The point of this story is, not all people who look African are the same, but the ones who black people come from are marked by the same cursed dark sign. And so they are hollow, just like you. But do not worry, I will use the dark sign to identify a black race you definitely come from. You see, the dark sign that marks blacks in America and other countries is slavery. Slavery is black history. For that matter, there is a time between 500 AD and 1500 AD called the Dark Ages. Why is it called the Dark Ages?
Your ancestor claimed the dark souls and waited for fire to subside. And soon the flames did fade, and only dark remained. Thus began the Age of Men, the Age of Dark.
It was called the Dark Ages because man ruled. Black people ruled. And between 700 AD to 1942, black people ruled Europe. They were called the Moors, a word that means brown. See the word moreno if you don't believe me. The Moors are described as African people who ruled Europe, parts of Europe. So, what happened to these great black people who had the power and intelligence to rule Europe? Well, in 1455, Pope Nicholas V ordered the Spanish, the Portuguese, and all Caucasians to reduce non-Christian people into perpetual slavery. That means you'll be slaves forever. Why is that important? Well, apparently, the Moorish countries, many of them were Muslim. So, when Pope was attacking non-Christian people, he was attacking the Moors. What is interesting though is, places like Germany and Romania were also ruled by the Moors, but they were Christian. And the Spanish, the Portuguese, and all the Caucasians went after them too. Why? Why'd they go after the black people who are Christian? But they did not go after the Arabians who were Muslim. The reason is the accursed dark sign. It was just wordplay to find an excuse to attack black people. So, in 1490, the Caucasian Renaissance began. And in 1492, 2 years later, the rulership of the Moors ended. The Moors were scattered and put into perpetual slavery, as the Roman Catholic Pope ordered, and the quest to conquer the New World began, as they sought to do the same to the Native Americans. However, no one seems to know about the Moors. No one knows where they went or what happened to them. But I would say that they became the African diaspora that you know of today, because we have these Moors, a group of Africans whose history ends with slavery under the hand of the Caucasians, and no one knows where they went. Also, we have blacks in America, which are a group of Africans whose history begins with slavery under the hand of Caucasians, and no one knows where they came from. And what is the sign that glues these two histories together? Slavery under the Caucasians. That is the cursed dark sign that identifies these two groups as the same. Because of the black history of slavery, we are able to connect blacks to the Moors, not because of skin color, but because of what happened. Of all the dark races in Africa, the dark sign helped us to identify which one the scattered blacks came from. So, now that you have this skill, not only can you use it to find black people in video games and other media, now you can use it to find black people in world history. And I will show you why that is important. But first, some of you want to know where I learned this skill. How did I learn to trace a race by using this history? Well, I will show you. For you see, the same way that we use the dark sign to connect blacks to the Moors, we can use it to connect blacks to other parts of history. Now, because of this game, we have talked extensively about the accursed dark sign. The dark sign is upon the seed of man forever.
Even now, there are only embers. And man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark sign.
So, we need to find this sign that is on a certain race of people forever. Incidentally, it is in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So, according to the Bible, there is a sign that is on a specific race and their children forever. Just like the dark sign. But what is this sign? Well, the verse seems like it is continuing a thought. So let's read up a verse and find out what the sign is. Verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. So, according to these two verses, the curse is a sign that is on this race. So this accursed sign could be used to identify this race. In other words, the Bible is what taught me how to trace back a race by its common history, by tracing the accursed sign, the dark sign. But there is more on this verse. It not only tells what the sign is, it also tells why it is on them. So verse 45 again. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. So the curse is on this race because they didn't keep the commandments. That is good to know, because as a black person, you live in America and suffer racism, and you don't know why. The people hate you, seemingly because of the color of your skin, and you can do nothing about it. But if the curses in this biblical chapter are the same as the events that black people go through, then we can say that this race in the Bible is the ancestor of the Moors and the blacks. We would have used the dark side to peel away the whitewashing to find where blacks came from. And it is whatever race these verses are written about. And if that is the case, then according to these two verses, the curse is on the blacks because of something the black people did. And if that is the case, they have the power to make it stop. Because of these verses, they would know how to stop the violence, how to stop the drugs, how to stop the redlining, how to stop the predatory lending, how to stop the kidnappings, how to stop the slavery, how to stop the racism, how to stop the oppression. And that is the importance of history. Because if you know history, you know why you are going through what you're going through. And then you'll know how to fix it. With that said, here is your lesson for today. Black people can be identified by the dark sign, the curses that afflicted their race, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45 and 46. For that reason, I must teach you a commandment, because the Bible said you suffer the curses because you would not do the commandments, right? So keeping the commandments will make the curse stop. So here is your commandment for today. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Remember the days of old means learn history. So the Bible commands you to learn history. Also, Job chapter 8, verse 8. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. Prepare thyself to the search of their fathers means to learn your history, the history of your ancestors, specifically black history. Therefore, it is a commandment for black people to learn black history. And according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45, if black people don't know their history, which is a commandment, they will be destroyed. Let me say that in a different way. According to the Bible, it is a sin for black people to not know black history, according to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7, and Job chapter 8, verse 8. Black people who don't learn black history are in sin against the Most High God. And Christians will say that Christ did away with the law and that it doesn't matter where you come from or your history or any of that. Listen, this is John chapter 14, verse 26. But the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, He shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. So Jesus says that the Holy Ghost will bring all things to your remembrance, meaning if you have the Holy Ghost, you will know Black history. That means you have never seen anyone catch the Holy Ghost, because if they did, in that moment, they would teach you Black history. Because if Christ told them what was in the Bible was history for the people he was talking to. So, if the Holy Ghost makes you teach what Christ taught, you would end up teaching history. But we'll talk about that more when we talk about the purging stone that reverses hollowing and helps the undead to remember their history.
Now, I'm off in search of the purging monument. Once I find it, everything will come back to me. Who I was, what I lived for, what my name was.
But that's in another episode. With that said, if we go into the Christian church again, show them according to Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 7 and Job 8:8 and John 14:26 that they are commanded to teach Black people their history according to the Bible. And if they don't, it is the church of Satan. Also, for good measure, do the same thing if you're in Islam with the Quran. Because don't forget, you are commanded by God and Jesus to know your history. Because keeping the commandments is supposed to make the curse stop. And knowing history will show you how to make the curses stop. So, you are commanded to know your history. What is funny is, if this is the case, that means Christians did everything to break God's commandment by destroying Black history. I wonder why. Is the Bible so scary? In any case, I plan to keep the commandment. I will teach you Black history in the Bible so we can see where these dark signs lead, to learn of the age of ancients. But I mentioned that in 1492, the Caucasians afflicted Native Americans in the same way that they did the Moors. I suppose, according to the commandment, I must see if that history is connected. Or more simply, I must show the Native Americans and the Hispanics that they are branded with the same dark sign. Next time on Lamech's Effects.